John starts the day off with a mountain and begins firing on all cylinders, casting both a Soul Ring and a Felwar Stone, solidifying himself as the arch enemy. Tom then plays a Forest and a Stoneforge Masterwork, while Extra plays a tapped Underground Mortuary, surveilling to the graveyard, and Sam rounds out the turn with a Mountain plus Soul Ring of his own. John then plays a Foreboding Ruins, revealing a mountain, and casts Fate Unraveler before passing to Tom. Tom first draws for turn and takes a hit from Unraveler, then plays a Forest, followed by a Nature's Lore, getting himself another Forest and a pass. Extra also gets tickled by the Unraveler before playing an Undergrowth Stadium, then copying Tom with a 3 visits, also getting a Forest, which he uses for an Ankle Biter to end the turn. Sam also feels the wrath of the Unraveler, with this being the final mention. He plays a Mountain and casts both a Runaway Steamkin and Firebrand Archer, triggering Steamkin to get a counter before giving the turn back to John. John plays a Mountain, then casts the duo of Bloodseeker and his commander, Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls, followed by a pass. On Tom's draw, Valgavoth triggers due to Unraveler, gaining a counter and drawing a card. He plays a Forest and casts his commander, Shroofus Sproutsire, triggering Seeker to deal 1 to Tom. He then ends the turn with a Rancor attachment onto Shroofus. On Extra's draw, Valgavoth triggers to add a counter and draw. He plays a Swamp, then goes for a double ramp with Golgari's Signet and Cultivate, getting a Forest into play and another into his hand. After that, he gives the turn to Sam. On Sam's draw, Valgavoth triggers. He then plays an Island and goes for a Sleight of Hand, triggering Archer to deal 1, followed by Grab the Prize, discarding a land, and triggering both Steamkin and Archer. Next he casts a Kestic Flame Breather, triggering Steamkin and Seeker, before giving the turn back to John. John first casts Karazakar, the Eye Tyrant, and goes straight to combat, attacking Sam with Valgavoth, triggering Karazakar to go Shroofus. After combat, he passes. On Tom's draw, Valgavoth triggers. He then casts a Hammer of Nazan, triggering its effect to equip itself onto Shroofus. Geared up, Shroofus goes at Extra, triggering Karazakar to have both John and Tom draw, plus lose 1 life, while having Unraveler deal 1 extra to Tom. Shroofus then triggers to make 5 Saprolings, triggering Seeker 5 times to deal Tom 5 damage, before he gives the turn to Extra. On Extra draw, Valgavoth again triggers. He plays a Forest, then casts his commander, Aphelia, Viper Whisperer, triggering Seeker to deal 1. He goes to combat, sending his Biter at John, having it be blocked by Seeker. In his second main, he casts a Sosuke Summons to make 2 snakes, followed by a Farseek to get a Swamp, and a pass to Sam. On Sam's draw, Valgavoth again triggers. He then starts the turn by activating Steamkin, removing 3 counters to make 3 red. He uses a part of the mana to cast Odra Axinil, Deepest Might, triggering Steamkin to gain back a counter. Next he pays 2 life to cast Gitaxian Probe, triggering both Archer and Flame Breather to deal a total of 8 damage to each opponent. Probe then resolves, drawing a card and triggering Unraveler to deal 1. To finish up, he casts both Razorkin Needlehead, triggering Steamkin, and Thermal Alchemist, who also triggers Steamkin before passing back to John. Now we finally have a trigger on John's draw, with Needlehead dealing 4 damage. He plays a Swamp, then casts a Seismic Assault, which he immediately activates, discarding a land to deal 2 to the Archer. Next up is a Molten Collapse on both Soul Ring and Odra, triggering Odra's effect to transform into a land. Finally he goes to combat, sending Karazakar and Valgavoth at Sam, triggering Karazakar to once again goad Shroofus. Once the combat is concluded, he gives the turn to Tom. On Tom's draw, Valgavoth triggers, alongside 2 Needlehead triggers, dealing 1 to both Tom and John. He plays a forest, then equips Masterwork onto Shroofus, followed by Bone Sabers, triggering Hammer to have them equip onto Shroofus. Fully equipped, he goes to combat, attacking extra with Shroofus, forgetting Shroofus is not the only Saproling. Sabers trigger first, giving 4 counters, followed by Karazakar to have both players draw 1 and lose 1, while Needlehead and Unraveler do some damage of their own. Shroofus is the last one to trigger, making 14 Saprolings before passing to Extra. On Extra's draw, Valgavoth triggers, alongside 2 Needlehead triggers, dealing 1 to both Extra and John. He plays a forest, then goes straight to combat, sending everything at John, who blocks a singular snake with his Unraveler. After block, Extra activates Aphelia to give his creatures a deadly effect, to which John responds by activating Assault, discarding a land, to deal 2 to the unblocked snake. Aphelia is still able to connect, triggering her effect to halve John's life total. After combat, he casts a Vizier of the Menagerie, triggering summons to return to hand, and give the turn to Sam. On Sam's draw, Valgavoth triggers, alongside Needlehead to deal 1. He first activates Steamkin to make 3 red, and casts his commander, Niv-Mizzet, Visionary, triggering Steamkin. In response, John activates Assault to get rid of Steamkin. With Niv in play, Sam activates Alchemist, dealing 1 to each opponent, and triggering Niv to draw 3, and lose 3 thanks to the Unraveler. Next he pays 2 life for a Gutshot on John, triggering Alchemist to untap, Flame Breather to deal 1, Niv to draw 3, and Unraveler to again deal 3. Not having much life left, he plays a Mountain, and casts an Electrostatic Field to end his turn. On John's draw, Needlehead triggers to deal 1, but is stopped by his immediate activation of Assault, discarding his freshly drawn land to take out Sam. Not wanting to waste too much time, he sends Karazakar at Extra and Valgavoth at Tom, triggering Karazakar to go Vizier and get him out of the way. As a result, both Tom and Extra kick the bucket, falling to the overwhelming might of the archenemy. Since this was a quick one, we got another one to celebrate the holidays, and also pad the timer, Sue Me. Tom starts us off this time with a forest into Wildgrowth. Extra plays an Underground Stadium, Sam plays a Mountain, and an Overmaster to draw a card, and I kid you not, John casts, are you ready, Soul Ring into Ragdo's Signet. You can't make this stuff up. Tom plays a forest, then casts the Metallic Duo of Lava Spur Boots and Metallic Mimic, naming Saproling. Extra plays a forest and ends the turn with a Sakura Tri-Belder. Sam plays an island, then casts a Coruscation Mage before passing to John. John plays a mountain, followed by his commander, Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls, and a pass back to Tom. Tom plays a forest and casts his commander, Shroofus Sproutsire, triggering Mimic to give him a counter. Next he equips Boots onto Shroofus and sends him at Extra's direction. Shroofus triggers to make 3 buffed up Saprolings before going to his end step, where Extra sacrifices Sakura to go get a swamp. Extra plays a swamp, then casts Reaper of the Wilds and gives the turn to Sam. Sam plays a mountain, followed by Bergie, God of Storytelling, and a pass. John also plays a mountain and ends the turn with a Pyromania. Tom first pays 3 to play a Tanglespan Bridgeworks, triggering Valgavoth to get a counter and draw. He casts a Staff of Titania and attempts to equip it onto Shroofus. In response, John casts an Ember of Blaze onto Shroofus, paying for Ward and taking him out. Having lost his commander, Tom gives the turn to Extra. Extra plays a Woodland Cemetery, then casts both his commander, Aphelia, Viper Whisperer, and Black Market Connections before passing the turn. Sam first casts Expressive Iteration, triggering Bergie to make a red, and Mage to deal 1 to each opponent. He plays an island, followed by the Exiled Opt, again triggering Bergie and Mage. Once the triggers resolve, he passes to John. John plays a Swamp, then casts a Hissing Miasma, and gives the turn back to Tom. Tom first casts a Bright Cap Badger, which then lets him recast his commander, Shroofus Sproutsire, again triggering Mimic to add a counter. After that, he passes. On Extra's upkeep, Connections trigger, paying 6 life to make a treasure and shapeshifter, while drawing an additional card. This also triggers Valgavoth to gain a counter and draw. He plays a Forest, then goes to combat, sending Aphelia at John and Reaper at Sam, triggering Miasma to lose 1 life. As no blockers are declared, he ninjutsus in Orochi Soul Reaper, triggering its effect twice to make 2 treasures and make 2 manifests. In his second main, he again casts Aphelia, then ends the turn with a Moss Viper. Sam plays a mountain, and first casts Gyerson Starl, Kellermorph, triggering Bergie to make a red. Next he casts a Talisman of Creativity, triggering Bergie to make a red, Mage to deal 1, and Starn to deal an additional 2. With everything resolved, he goes to his end step, where John activates Pyromania, discarding a random card to deal 1 to Sam's face, triggering Valgavoth to gain a counter, and draw. John plays a mountain, then casts Ojiraxanil, Deepest Might, before using Feed the Swarm to destroy Tom's Badger, triggering Reaper to finally scry 1. Once everything resolves, he gives the turn back to Tom. Tom first casts a Nissa's Pilgrimage, getting a Forest into play and another into hand, which he then plays. Next he equips his staff onto Shroofus, before going to combat, sending him at Sam, triggering Staff's effect to make a Forest Dryad. Shroofus then triggers to make 8 more buffed Saplings before passing the turn to Extra. On Extra's upkeep, Connections trigger, paying 3 life to make a treasure and draw a card, while triggering Valgavoth to gain a counter and draw. He plays an Access Tunnel and immediately activates it to make Aphelia unblockable. He goes to combat, sending Aphelia at Tom, Orochi at Sam, and Viper plus Reaper at John. Miasma triggers twice to make Extra lose 2 life, followed by an activation of Aphelia, to which John responds by activating Pyromania, discarding a random card to deal 4 to the Viper. Once the damage is dealt, Orochi triggers 3 times to make 3 treasures and manifest 3, while Aphelia halves each opponent's life total. After that, the turn is passed to Sam. Sam plays an island, then casts his commander, Niv-Mizzet Visionary, triggering Bergie to make a red. Next he casts a Reality Shift on Ojiraxanil, triggering Bergie to make a red, Mage to deal 1, Starn to deal 2, and Niv to draw a total of 9 cards. He follows up with a Strike It Rich, triggering everything once more, and finishes it off with an Arcane Signet, and a reveal of 3 more castable spells, speeding things up, and declaring himself the victor.